We represent two individuals, sidewalk counselors, who were brutally attacked in Baltimore, Maryland, outside of a Planned Parenthood clinic, which is also next door to a pro-life pregnancy center. They're very peaceful. They're very calm. If the woman doesn't want to talk to them, they let them go by. Yeah. They don't violate any of the rules and the laws that govern the free access to clinics. They do it every week, some of them every day, and they were brutally attacked and assaulted outside of the Planned Parenthood.
This is not a few scuffs. This is not a few cuts and bruises. These are guys who have been just obliterated. I mean, their faces have been destroyed.
You get punched and get like a gash over your eyebrow.
No. And even now, we've seen updated imagery. It's like the bruising and the swelling and everything that's happening. It's a sad reality of where we're living right now.
I just want to get through the timeline. So Dick Schaefer, our client, he's 75 years old. He goes to Planned Parenthood in Baltimore 5 days a week and every week of the year. He's there from about 9 to 11 a.m., so a couple hours a week. On Friday, he was in front of the Planned Parenthood as usual when a man approached him and started talking with him. That's ultimately the person who was the attacker. The man said that God gave us all free will and that God is merciful and that the decision to get an abortion is hard enough without people like Dick Schaefer standing out front to make them feel bad. After a bit of back and forth conversation that was still cordial, Dick says it felt like it was pretty shallow. He decided it was going nowhere and that it was kind of being like used so he couldn't talk to the women who were going in to get an abortion. That he wanted to turn his attention to other people who were walking by. So he turned around and bent over to grab some pamphlets out of a box that he had with him. As he was bent over, he was struck so hard he thought he'd been hit by a truck. So he thought it actually like a vehicle had ended up on the sidewalk. He didn't know at the time, but he was knocked into a concrete planter and knocked unconscious. He woke up covered in dirt and started looking around for Mark, our other client, worried that he had been hurt too. That's when he realized that he was missing time because 2 ambulances and police cars were in front of Planned Parenthood because he had been knocked unconscious. So Dick sustained minor injuries, cuts on his hands and bruises on his body. But then Mark, who goes to Planned Parenthood on occasion, happened to go down there on Friday and was there the same time, and he saw what happened to Dick, and he saw who was talking to Dick. And the guy walked by Mark while he was standing in the street and said, quote, "You stay there." Then he went over to where Dick was standing, handed a soda he was drinking to one of the Planned Parenthood escorts. Okay, so this ties them to it, and said, "Hold this for me." They did. He then assumed that Mark did what Mark described as a football stance, rushed into Dick, kind of lifting him up and slamming him to the ground. Mark went over to intervene. The guy turned on him, and you've seen what's happened to Mark's face, struck him in the face after knocking him to the ground and then kicking him in the head. Mark sustained severe injuries to his head, is currently blind in one eye, and has 2 fractured fingers and injuries to his leg. Mark, very brave there, tried to assist his fellow sidewalk counselor, Dick, who still did not have to suffer, thankfully, as many injuries, but was knocked unconscious long enough not to know that his buddy had already been beaten, and that police had already. I mean, that's a long time to be unconscious.
These are sidewalk counselors. These are guys on the street saying, "Here's a pamphlet. Would you consider going before you go here? Would you consider going to take a look at what's going on at the pro-life pregnancy center, nearby?" That is all this was, and it ended in a brutal assault. And the problem is like you said, this administration, and really when Dobbs was overturned, when Roe ended up being overturned, this kind of conversation of being aggressive and violent towards pro-lifers once again reignited. And you saw Jane's Revenge. You saw the spray painting of facilities with horribly violent things attacking pro-lifers.
The FBI should be involved in this one.
Yeah.
I mean, because you got
clearly
an abortion clinic. You got as we talked about, the FACE Act, which is a federal law.
Premeditative act. Clearly, I mean, this is someone this was not a fight that turned into this just brutal assault. This started as an assault.
Right. It wasn't
a confrontation.
It wasn't an escalating conversation. Right. It was a conversation that was fairly calm, as reported. And then out of nowhere, this person decides, you know what? You're trying to now stop talking to me, so you're going to start doing your job again as a sidewalk counselor. I'm really trying to prevent you from doing that. Yeah. But the rage on the left, like they say, you know what? Like, this is okay behavior.
Yeah, it's really disturbing.
I want to see their condemnation